These beloved dishes are staples in Southeast Asia. You can find them at hawker stalls, restaurants, and even fast food chains. And behind each dish is a complex backstory. Who created it? Can any country lay claim to it? Where can I eat the most authentic nasi lemak or cendol? Join us on a food adventure across Southeast Asia as we find out who created these iconic street foods. Nasi lemak.
A sprinkling of crunchy ikan bilis and slices of cucumber, layered with a juicy fried chicken thigh. A dollop of sambal, topped with flavorful rendang sauce and a sunny side-up egg. This nasi lemak ayam burger was launched on Twitter with this spicy message.
Why so salty?
Well, you see, in 2017, McDonald's Singapore launched a nasi lemak burger. The nasi lemak burger was created in 2017 for the Singapore Food Festival.
And also to celebrate Singapore's National Day on August 9th.
And McDonald's made it clear that it was...
Just for you, Singapore.
Uh-oh.
But that didn't sit well with some people, namely Malaysians. One commenter even said that nasi lemak is from Malaysia, not Singapore.
Others chimed in that nasi lemak is Malaysia's traditional food. The media picked up on the fight.
So, did Singapore really commandeer Malaysia's national food?
I'm Ming. Food lover, chef, and culinary consultant. The nasi lemak burger battle happened a few years ago, but it sort of just fizzled out without any definitive conclusion. So, it's time to find out where nasi lemak really comes from. My journey to find out more about nasi lemak begins at this burger joint in Kuala Lumpur, where one of the biggest showdowns in modern nasi lemak history started.
You tweeted, "You know we mean business when we bring out the flag." And then you put nasi lemak burger in front of a Malaysian flag. Dear Singapore, nice try, but why this emotion?
The Malaysian netizens weren't too happy that, to some extent, there was an unofficial claim that nasi lemak is a very Singaporean thing. As a Malaysian, it is generally known that nasi lemak is a key representative when it comes to food. I believe the reason is because you can buy nasi lemak at any given time of day in Malaysia, and by that default, it is our national dish. Once someone questioned our identity and nasi lemak, we want to come out in full force and say, hey, look, this is us, don't mess with us.
Did you feel like you righted or wrong here?
Absolutely. We want the world to say, hey, when you think nasi lemak, you think Malaysia.
Do you accept that nasi lemak could be Singaporean?
The version with sausage, yes, it's all yours. You can take that and own it. As a peace offering, I would love to offer this burger to you, and we'll have a bit of a burger bro moment and try this nasi lemak burger together.
Yeah, I don't trust you with a knife. I'll cut it. I know the origins of a dish can be complicated. The ingredients could have been imported, or the dish could have variations elsewhere. But when a country calls a dish its national dish, it's most likely because they invented it. So, the question is, did nasi lemak originate from Malaysia?
I thought I should start my investigation here. At one of the oldest nasi lemak stalls in Malaysia's oldest city, Malacca. Hello, Cik Saleha. Hi. I've heard so much about your nasi lemak. Can I try your nasi lemak?
Kan?
Can I? Can?
Buku siwai, tak payah
Thank you.
siwai.
Nasi lemak means fatty or rich rice in Malay. The richness comes from the creamy taste of the coconut milk that the rice is cooked in. This is the nasi lemak that Madam Saleha sold when she first started out in 1970.
Nasi lemak ni kita genam beras, kukus, turun balik, kukus lagi sekali sampai dia lembut, baru kacau santan. Dah kacau dah serap, dah cantik. Nanti kalau tengok dah kering, tambah sikit. Kalau tak pandai kacau, dia hancur. Memang asal orang Melaka yang buat nasi lemak kukus ini.
When did the other side dishes come into play?
Dulu bawa niaga nasi lauk 5 macam je, tak banyak-banyak. Saya dulu pakai sotong, pakai siham, pakai daging, pakai ayam goreng, pakai ayam rendang. Tahun 80 macam-macam lauk saya masak. Sebab customer pun dah ada, customer nak suka makan kita masak lauk macam-macam dah.
Sambal, it's quite sweet, very fragrant. But the one that's interesting to me is the kangkung.
Kangkung.
I've never had nasi lemak with kangkung before. It's not a typical vegetable I find in nasi lemak.
Arwah mak mentua saya ajar. Kalau meniaga nasi lemak, goreng kangkung. Mak mentua saya orang Boyan. Ada gajin masak buat nasi lemak.
Madam Saleha's inclusion of kangkung was influenced by her mother-in-law's Boyanese roots. The Boyanese came from the Bawean Islands of East Java, Indonesia. Madam Saleha's mother-in-law's Boyanese family migrated to Malacca generations ago. So your Boyanese mother-in-law also knew how to make nasi lemak?
Mak mentua aku dulu, mak dia dulu ajar buat nasi lemak.
Wait, so nasi lemak could have come from Indonesia?
Dah tak pergi, tak tahu.
It piqued my interest that Madam Saleha's Boyanese mother-in-law knew how to cook nasi lemak. Could nasi lemak have an Indonesian connection? In my search, I came across a dish that may provide a lead. Nasi uduk. Nasi lemak and nasi uduk are two popular dishes that have coconut milk in their rice. One article called Indonesia's nasi uduk a close cousin of nasi lemak. Another said that nasi lemak and nasi uduk shared the same soul and same popularity. A food blogger found that the two dishes are often considered the same dish, but that Sultan Agung of Mataram, which is in central Java, created nasi uduk in the 17th century. So when was nasi lemak created? Could nasi lemak have been inspired by nasi uduk? In my journey to uncover the roots of nasi lemak, I've landed on another dish. Nasi uduk from Indonesia. It also features rice cooked in coconut milk, paired with side dishes like egg and sambal. According to historical records, nasi uduk has been around since the 17th century. Could nasi lemak have been inspired by nasi uduk? I'm here in Kuala Lumpur to speak to food historian Ahmad Najib Arifin, or Naj. He's known in Malaysia as the expert on the origins of food. Hi Naj.
Hi Ming, good to meet you.
I see you've got a plate of food there.
Yes, I've ordered myself a plate of nasi uduk.
Nasi uduk, okay?
Yes.
I have a packet of nasi lemak that
There
I
you
purchased
go.
from a store nearby. Could nasi lemak have been inspired by other Indonesian dishes like nasi uduk? Because they're quite similar.
There is a difference between the two kinds of dishes, and maybe the best way is for you to try it out and taste that difference.
The nasi uduk is sort of lighter, not so heavily lemaked. Whereas the nasi lemak rice is heavier. There's this strong coconut flavor, and it's quite a lot more
Yes.
savory.
The surrounding dishes are also quite different. Nasi lemak is more basic. Even just half an egg and the fried peanuts, fried anchovies, the sambal, this is a complete nasi lemak. Anything else is just embellishment. But nasi uduk, you must have tempeh, which is fermented soybean cake, and then shredded omelets. And also you have the crackers here, which are considered a part of that nasi uduk. Look at the sambal. It's very, very different from the nasi lemak sambal. It uses green chilies.
So in summary, you're saying that it's unlikely these two were linked and that nasi lemak came from nasi uduk.
Neither came from the other. They were separately created dishes which grew over time. Coconut trees are ubiquitous. So at some point or other in history, people would have already experimented with cooking rice or maybe other kinds of grains with coconut milk.
Naj has done extensive research on how nasi lemak might have come about.
There is a folklore which originates apparently from Malacca as well as Muar, which is nearby to Malacca, about the story of a widow by the name of Mak Kuntum and her daughter Sri. So one day, while cooking a pot of rice, Sri accidentally spilled coconut milk into it. So when Mak Kuntum returned home, she smelled the fragrant rice and asked her daughter what it was. Sri, being a little bit hesitant and afraid of being scolded, she replied, Nasi lemak, which in colloquial Malay means, it's just rice, Mom, it's just rice, Mom. And that's how the dish was invented.
Assuming this story is true, Naj, help us place when this would have occurred.
Considering that Malacca was the seat of the Malay Malacca Sultanate Empire, and that goes back all the way to the 14th century, it could have been anywhere from there.
If this myth perhaps didn't even actually happen, where do you think the origins of nasi lemak come from based on your research?
To illustrate that, it's best that we go and look at a map.
Okay.
In my research, it's very predominant in the whole west coast of the Malay Peninsula. It's less on the east coast, so that's a first indicator. The other indicator is the actual ingredients that go into the whole basic dish. You have the rice, you have the anchovies, you have peanuts, and very critically, you have the sambal. There are literally hundreds of kinds of sambal all around the Malay archipelago, and the one that is used in nasi lemak is the type that is very common on the west coast. So there you begin to get the sense that nasi lemak did originate from somewhere along the west coast of the Malay Peninsula.
The west coast of the Malay Peninsula is long. Can you name a specific spot? Yes, because Malacca is on that west.
There you are. So
Right.
Malacca is right there, almost in the middle of the Malay Peninsula. And because we have that folklore, which is very common there and very popular there, it's a possible indicator that Malacca was at least the place where nasi lemak became famous.
Whilst we can't pinpoint the exact person or village where nasi lemak was invented, Naj is very sure that it originated from the various cities along the west coast of the Malay Peninsula, which doesn't include Singapore. I wonder how people in Singapore would feel about that.
Enjoy nasi lemak. For us to hear as a Malay Singaporean, you cannot claim nasi lemak. The Malay in me just go, me how? Am I not part of this identity?
Singapore nasi lemak is way better than the Malaysia. Why? Because of its simplicity. Do remember, it's nasi lemak, not nasi padang.
There's a Malay version, there's a Chinese version, and there are Lux versions as well. And there's the $1.50 version, which is a small packet of rice in banana leaf. To me, that's a quintessential Singaporean dish.
We have it for breakfast, we have it lunch, we have it for supper. I think there's nothing wrong for us if we want to claim it as our national dish as well, because we just simply love it.
I wonder what Sarafian Saleh thinks of this. He is a heritage researcher with a knack for finding lost places.
Hello, sir. It was Mr. Ming.
Like torn down palaces used by Malay royals, or forgotten mosques in Singapore.
So who can we attribute nasi lemak to?
Simply put, it's a Malay dish from the Malay archipelago.
So there is a possibility that Malays in Singapore created nasi lemak.
Okay, speaking of Malays in Singapore, we are all migrant society. So when these Malay migrants from Java, from Sulawesi, from Sumatra, they come to Singapore, they brought with them a cultural baggage. When Malay migrants start to settle in Singapore and call this place home, they start to cook. And so nasi lemak was one of those dishes that's very popular in Singapore. So I wouldn't say that nasi lemak came from Singapore, but I would just say that nasi lemak actually exists in Singapore from the Malays.
From what I've gathered so far, this is the most definitive statement I can make about nasi lemak. It is a Malay dish from the Malay archipelago, created way before Malaysia and Singapore existed as independent countries. Now, the other question to tackle, the trickier one, is this.
Who has better nasi lemak, Singapore or Malaysia?
Processed food, hard work. What would you prefer?
Now, nasi lemak used to be a humble Malay dish, and back in the day, it could have cost less than $1, and generally came with rice, ikan bilis, peanuts, maybe sambal. But today, there's so many options, as you can see.
To help me understand why our side dishes are so different, I enlisted the help of an advocate of Singapore heritage cuisine, Chef Damien.
So I prepared side dishes for the nasi lemak. Can you tell which is across the causeway and which is Singapore?
I would say this stuff from ikan bilis side onwards, it's more Singaporean maybe. And on this side, less familiar to me. These look like more complex items.
You're right, this is Singapore. And here you have the Malaysian variety that you can find in a nasi lemak store. You have sambal sotong, where they use actually fresh squid. You have sambal paru. You get paru in Singapore, but not in nasi lemak stores. Kerang, your cockle sambal.
So why are the side dishes different?
In the beginning, Singapore and Malaysia, same. But in the 70s and the 80s, we got a lot more busier. We could not spend more than 10, 15 minutes to have our nasi lemak before heading off to work, right? We just didn't have that luxury of sitting down, having 4, 5 dishes. If there was a stall selling nasi lemak, of course there was fish, but nobody wanted to have the fish because bones. Yeah, exactly.
Scales,
I want fish cake because there's no bones. In Singapore, in the 80s, you find a lot more processed foods coming in. And it wasn't the Malay stalls that sold nasi lemak with processed food. It was mainly the Chinese stall.
As compared to this side of the table,
Yeah.
Tell me what goes into these dishes here.
A lot of hard work, really. There are 2 different types of sambals, right? Even the rempah to cook the cockles, the beef lung, the paru, the sotong, it's all different. And you want that because otherwise you get the same flavor profile throughout and it's flat.
Who has better nasi lemak, Singapore or Malaysia? What do you think?
Malaysian nasi lemak is better because processed food, hard work. Nothing is processed. Everything is cooked from scratch. Different sambals. What would you prefer?
Well, to be fair, not every nasi lemak sold in Singapore comes with processed food. We cannot claim to be the birthplace of nasi lemak for sure, but this we can claim. Home to a Michelin Bib Gourmand eatery that has taken nasi lemak to the next level. And you certainly won't find sausages or fish cakes here.
I've prepared 3 different types of nasi lemak with 3 different types of coconut milk. One is with the packet ones, one is with coconut milk from the local market, and one is the Coconut Club special blend of coconut milk. Would you be able to tell the difference?
Let's go with this one first. Coconut is there, rice is there, but it's a bit one note. Next one. It's a bit oilier. Right, the last one. It's not oily and cloying and greasy. There are levels to the flavor profile, almost floral in nature. This is obviously yours. And I would say that the second one would be local supplier, and the first one is the very pedestrian packet form of coconut milk. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, sweet. I got it right.
There's many different types of coconuts. For us, we only get the coconuts and they are dehusked and cracked open only on the day itself that they deliver to us. So it keeps it very fresh. I need to show you in the kitchen.
All right, let's go.
What we have here is our coconuts, imported fresh daily from JB, the shortest route to Singapore, so that we ensure freshness.
Besides fresh coconuts, this is what makes their coconut milk different. This pneumatic press is made specifically for the Coconut Club to extract coconut milk. Its proprietary technology is designed by a former F1 engineer.
The boiling of the rice would overcook the rice, and the rice grains will actually break. So what we do is to steam it overnight with some of the aromatics, let it rest overnight, and then the next day we'll add the coconut milk.
Why put in so much effort for a dish that many say doesn't originate from Singapore?
We can show that when we're doing it in Singapore, we can make it better.
You guys heard that, right? It's better here in Singapore. Not from me, from Chef Daniel. Okay? Nasi lemak could have been created by accident, or more likely as a simple way to fill people up before a hard day of work. This Malay dish might have originated from the west coast of the Malay Peninsula, but it didn't remain there.
Cendol.
In this part of the world where the weather is hot and wet, hot and dry, or just plain hot, there's nothing quite like a cold treat to beat the heat. One such cold dessert is Cendol. This icy concoction of coconut milk and syrupy gula melaka is made distinctive thanks to one key ingredient: this. The noodle-like jelly is stained green because of the pandan juice used to flavor it.
Thank you.
Without this, it just wouldn't be Cendol. In fact, this jelly is called Cendol. It's what the entire dessert is named after.
Now, Cendol would normally be a dessert that elicits emotions of joy and refreshment, if not for this article in CNN. Now, November 2018, this innocent enough article listed desserts from different countries in alphabetical order. You have Apfelstrudel from Austria, you have baklava from Turkey, Black Forest cake from Germany, and everything sort of seems to be in order until Cendol from Singapore. So we made the list. Yay, great. But the bad part here is, not everyone agreed.
Almost immediately, there were strong reactions from across the causeway.
This being the internet, of course there were comments. Let me read some of them for you. One reader chides CNN Travel saying you should be more sensitive about the culture in this region. Cendol is not from Singapore. Another Malaysian reader says, this is a horrendous claim that it is terribly inaccurate. And yet another Malaysian took to Twitter to declare, don't mess with Malaysian food. Cendol is from Malaysia, not Singapore.
But in the midst of the ruckus, another spanner was thrown into the works. Quite a few readers said that the fight really isn't between Singapore and Malaysia. Cendol actually came from Indonesia. So did Indonesia invent cendol? And if they did, why are the Malaysians laying claim to this dish as their creation? Was it shoddy journalism? Or is cendol Singaporean as the article says? Now, however this food fight ends, I think it's going to be a yummy investigation. Hi, I'm Ming Tan, chef, culinary consultant, and I love local food. But I have to be honest, right? The question of Singapore's claim to cendol hadn't surfaced much for me because I don't even eat this dessert that much. But if an international food writer believes cendol is Singaporean, well, that's enough to get my interest piqued and my pride in Singapore food stoked. Why does Malaysia think cendol is theirs? Do they have proof they invented the dessert? To find the answers, I'm traveling to Malaysia. So we're starting in Malacca because of all the places where cendol is well known, it's gotta be Malacca. I mean, for good reason too, right? Besides the green jelly and the santan or the coconut milk, the other crucial ingredient in cendol is gula Melaka. And it's literally called sugar of Malacca. If you're a visitor to Malacca, you gotta come to Jonker Street. Everyone visits this place. Every single turn, you will find shops selling cendol and gula Melaka. Many of the cendol stalls here are Peranakan. They're known for their deep green cendol made fresh by hand. So I think the Peranakans would be the best people to find out why cendol is so important to Malaysia. Madam Kiao Cendol is an icon in Malacca. The family business has been around for 2 generations, and I'm here to meet owner Cassandra Koh.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Hello. Come, I show you how actually we make the cendol.
Wow, I see. What would you say your secret ingredient is in your recipe for cendol?
It's actually the flour
Yep.
and the juice from the pandan leaf and of course the addition of cendol leaf.
I have no idea what cendol leaf is.
Oh, come, I show you. This is the one. So we get the dark green color from this leaf. Don't have any smell.
Very nice, very green, right? The green
Yes,
color is
yes.
very strong.
It's the signature among Nyonya Cendol.
I see.
Nyonya Cendol is dark green.
As a child in a Peranakan household, Cassandra was expected to learn her way around the kitchen. This cendol recipe was passed down from her grandparents.
This is mesmerizing to watch. You don't realize how dark green this is, right? Until you stare at it as it's churning, like an ocean of liquid jade. Brian, what's next now that this is almost done already?
Yeah, it's almost done. After this, we will pour in to press this up in the noodles.
Okay, so how do you get this into that? Oh, like that.
One press.
Oh, wow.
So now is the time to have a try of my cendol.
The texture is slippery, chewy, but with a little bit of resistance, not mushy at all. Why do you think cendol is so important in Nyonya culture?
3 main occasions Peranakan will serve cendol. One is when we pray ancestor. Then if we have any happy occasion like marriage or shop opening, then we will definitely serve cendol as one of the desserts.
Is cendol from Malaysia? Right?
I would say cendol is originally from Malaysia. If I'm not mistaken, cendol also announced as a heritage dessert, one of the heritage dessert in Penang and also Malacca. That's why most of the tourists, when they come and visit these 2 places, they will definitely look for cendol.
Right, so since you are Nyonya, did Nyonyas invent cendol?
I'm not sure.
Not sure.
Well, that's a bit of a dead end. The Nyonyas seem to have perfected cendol but may not have invented it. Surely in a town known for cendol, someone must be able to tell me who invented the dessert.
So I followed my nose into this shop. We were just walking by on Jonker Street, and you can smell just the strong depth, the scent of gula melaka and pandan. And here in one of the cendol stores, they are basically cooking the pandan and gula melaka syrup that goes into the cendol.
It turns out, Bibik House Cendol is another Peranakan place that has been serving cendol since 2005. While Madam Kiao's is proud of their dark green jelly, the star in this shop is their Gula Melaka, which makes this the perfect place to ask, is cendol from Malacca?
可以尝一尝吗？一小块。
OK 吧，香。
不会很甜哦。
不会甜，它的价钱是会比较高的。
你觉得 cendol 是从哪里来的？哪一个国家来的？
我所知道是以前也是从印度来的。
印度来的。
小时候啊，都是测的煎肉都是印度人卖，后来慢慢就改良改到是说，也有牛亚人做啊，什么人都有做啦。
Nyonya cendol， 所以以前印度人卖的那些 cendol 有什么分别？
他们卖的比较水，比较甜，我的比较浓，不过不会甜，因为我没有放白糖。
So let me get this straight, right? The Peranakans who popularized cendol and named it Nyonya style cendol didn't actually invent cendol. And these Indian vendors, right? Who were they? And did they invent Nyonya style cendol in Malaysia? Or did they merely bring the dessert to this region? To help me answer this, I've called out one of my chef friends who's well known for answering questions like this. And hopefully we can find some clarity into this milky, coconut creamy dessert.
The Nonyas or Peranakans of Malacca didn't invent the dessert. They merely perfected and popularized it. Instead, they pointed me to Indian vendors who sold cendol even before they got into the business. Which begs the question, did the Indians invent cendol in Malaysia, or did they merely bring an Indian dessert to the region?
What's up?
What
How's
up,
it going,
buddy?
I've called my friend Chef Ivan Brem, who runs a research center that looks into the origins of food.
Ivan, where are we headed right now?
We're going up near KL right now, the place that's been there since the 1930s. An Indian stall. It's almost 100 years old and they've been selling cendol. Cendol is possibly related to a sweet called faluda that comes from Persia, specifically a state called Uttar Pradesh that had some sort of Persian influence in the past. And we're talking 1800s here, maybe 1700s. And also a very credible potential there is that it came with immigrants from Uttar Pradesh, Indian immigrants.
So do you think there's a good chance that the cendol we've enjoyed for many years in this part of the world is actually from India?
Yes.
So cendol may have come from Indian faluda, which was already being enjoyed as a drink in 17th century royal courts of the Mughal Empire. This faluda, however, was not an Indian invention. It was a version of the Persian dessert called falude, which was probably introduced to India in the 8th century when the Persians arrived there. I hope this Indian cendol stall owner near Kuala Lumpur can confirm if cendol indeed has Persian Indian roots.
Hello, boss. Can we have 2 cendol, please? Oh, thank you. Look at this.
It's an overflowing cup of joy there.
How does this compare to the cendols I've had in Malacca? I'll be honest, I think this is a lighter, more watered down version. The sugar they use, it's not Gula Malacca. This is
jaggery.
How long has the cendol business been with your family?
My grandfather, my mom's dad, started it in the 1930s.
1930s.
Are you the oldest cendol stall in Malaysia?
I think so.
Uyo.
Because we are doing, because I'm already 3rd generation.
Where did your grandfather, who began this business, learn how to make cendol?
We used to live in Lorong Jawa, that's nearby
Lorong
here.
Jawa.
It used to be occupied by Javanese people. He learned the trade from them. Because this cendol originated from Java.
What do you think of the similarity with faluda?
And then the jelly inside the faluda?
They use normal jelly.
Not starch and...
No, normal jelly, colored jellies.
So 100% Faluda and Cendol, no link.
I can confirm that.
As far as you know, right, does Cendol in any sort of form exist in India?
No. In India, they don't like the smell of the pandan.
Interesting. Okay, you got it for the horse's mouth. There's no link there, but your grandfather learned it from a Javanese while living in the Javanese community. Just answer as honestly as possible. Where is Cendol from?
From what my father told, it's from Java.
If Java is the origin point of this dish, then it's off to Indonesia I go. Bye, see you later. Java! Java! What started out as a journey to see if Cendol was a Malaysian creation led instead to a third contender, Indonesia. Indonesian culinary expert William Wongso was interviewed by the Jakarta Post when the CNN article started the fight between Malaysia and Singapore over the origins of Cendol. Hello, I'm William.
Me.
It's been a while. Wow, what have you
Yes.
prepared here?
So this is what I recreate in Indonesian dessert.
Some parts of this are familiar to me.
Yes, it's cendol.
Everything together. Some of the... Is that jackfruit?
Yes, jackfruit.
That's delicious. I've been doing a little bit of research on Cendol. I need to find out Cendol's origins.
Cendol is known internationally. The other word, you know?
What is the other word?
Dawet.
Dawet.
Yeah, I came from East Java. We name it Dawet. It was written in the Centini letters like 300, 400 years ago. They mentioned about this Dawet issue.
The Centini Letters is a collection of Javanese teachings that depict events in East Java in the 1630s. Dawet was mentioned in these letters.
Okay, so it already existed in Indonesia at that point.
For long, hundreds of years.
By 1866, there was already a recipe for dawet published in an East Indies cookbook. These provide evidence to the fact that cendol was already being enjoyed in Indonesia as early as some 400 years ago.
Basically, cendol and dawet, are they the same thing?
Principle is the same thing, except now everyone has their own secret composition. I don't know who is making original dawet anymore because everybody interprets differently. But I'll do my version of...
Right now?
Yes.
The original recipe for dawet calls for arrowroot flour, but William uses sago starch as a replacement and mixes it with mung bean and rice flour. Then we cook the mix with pandan juice to thicken the starch.
And don't forget this one, to press the cendol. Yeah, like drop it and pull, drop it and pull.
If you don't have this contraption, right, cannot make...
Otherwise it becomes long strand.
I see. The spoon into all of that. Let's take a look at this, the side view. Look at that. Okay, I'm gonna try this.
It's like you're swallowing jade. So shiny.
This is nice and chewy.
So Indonesia's claim to cendol dates back some 300 to 400 years. I would have been satisfied with this, but William says he knows someone else who can trace Indonesian cendol even further back.
Go to Fadli Rahman in Jogja. He's a historian.
Okay.
He will give you more clue historically.
As far as we can see and taste, dawet is cendol, and they both come from Java about 400 years ago. But it seems that cendol's ties to Indonesia go back even further. Fadli Rahman is a university lecturer and teaches culinary history.
Hello, Mr. Fadli.
Hello,
Hi.
Sumi.
Good to see you. Thank you for meeting me.
Mas, pesan dawetnya 2, Mas.
Thank you very much.
You can see there are 3 layers here. Santan or coconut milk, and then the green grains of cendol, and also the palm sugar.
All right, time to try this. So I stir a bit. Look at that. Yeah, these are thinner grains of jelly. The pandan flavor is also a bit different. How would you know that cendol or dawet is from Java?
We can trace it from an old Japanese manuscript called Kakawin Krishnayana that wrote by Empu Triguna in 12th century from the Kediri Kingdom in East Java. Cendol or dawet often involved in the Japanese ceremonies such like dodol dawet in the wedding ceremony, and also in rituals such like the ceremony of 7-month pregnancies of a woman.
7th month?
Yes.
In fact, the word cendol was recorded in a Dutch dictionary, then spelt as jendol, as Indonesia was once a Dutch colony.
Jendol or jendul is meant swollen.
Swollen?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
a bump?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bump, and the green grain is like a swollen.
To see this piece of history set within Indonesia's culture, Fadli is taking me to a local wedding.
Ing mriki dipun wontenaken punika dodol dawet ingkang punika ingkang supados samangke dados lumampah kanthi sae.
We're attending this celebration in the outskirts of Jogja, where a centuries-old tradition called dodol dawet is still practiced.
Dodol means selling. It means selling dawet.
So why are they selling dawet in a wedding?
This symbolically reflects the philosophy of the Japanese life. Instead of money, we use the red clay to pay the dawet. This represents the symbol of the earth. Dodol dawet is a reflection of the hard determination and also the readiness of the parents to let it go their sons to build a new life as husband and wife.
Indonesia definitely has compelling evidence that cendol is their creation, dating back centuries. By 1869, the word cendol has made it into a Dutch dictionary. There's even a recipe for dawet or cendol from 1866, which, when recreated, tastes like the cendol we know. The dessert has even been woven into the social fabric of the country and is an important part of weddings. So I'm heading home to close the loop and see if Singapore has any last words on Indonesia's claim to cendol. It's back home I go to find out. Singapore has its fair share of cendol stalls. And we have been particularly creative with our versions.
So I've learned that this is the oldest cendol stall in Singapore, and I'm about to order one to try it.
You are?
I hear this is the oldest cendol stall in Singapore.
My dad told me like my grandfather when he moved here from India, I think in 1910. So he started selling like those push carts, cendol.
And when you say beginning until now, how old is this recipe?
I would say from the 1910s. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So is there any chance that cendol is from Singapore?
I doubt so. Technically, I think people accept that it's from Java.
Okay. Awesome, I can't wait. Thank you. Woohoo. That's really good. The Gula Melaka especially is robust, but not overwhelming. What is overwhelming, however, is the evidence that cendol is from Indonesia. As early as the 12th century, cendol was already seen in Indonesia, and by the 1800s, it was recorded. They had a recipe, and the word cendol was in the dictionary.
Malaysia has a cendol stall that dates back to the 1930s, and Singapore has one that goes all the way back to the 1910s. Both have recipes with Indonesian roots.
So I'm very sorry, Malaysia, cendol is not yours, and it's not ours too, Singapore. Cendol clearly belongs to Indonesia.
Kueh.
Kueh is an entire genre of Southeast Asian snacks.
made more colorful by centuries of trade, innovation, and war.
Being able to eat a kueh would be a special treat. A little bit of pleasure in hard times. Why not?
I'm Justin Fu, and I've spent most of my time as a chef making European cakes and cuisine. In this documentary, I'm returning to my roots and visiting some of the most notable kueh makers in Singapore.
People keep thinking that Ang Ku Kueh is actually Peranakan, but it has its origin from Fujian, China.
Join me as I go on a culinary adventure unearthing the untold stories behind these dainty delectables.
You taste the difference?
The coconut flavor is very pronounced.
Unveil their roots as fusion foods of their time.
When you have kueh lapis from Indonesia, the best quality ones always will use this Dutch butter.
And discover what these yummy delights can tell us about Southeast Asia.
If you see this steamer, you know that it's putu piring. No other kuehs in the world would use this.
It's the 8th day of the Chinese New Year and the eve of the Jade Emperor's birthday. There are still a few hours to go before celebrations kick off at midnight, but preparations are already in full swing. Devotees have been streaming in since 2 p.m, and they're here early to secure a spot for their offerings to the Jade Emperor, who in Taoism is the supreme ruler of the three realms: heaven, earth, and the sea. And among all the offerings, the tribute of choice seems to be this, the Ang Ku Kueh.
It's 30 minutes to midnight and this place is just jam-packed full of people. People here can actually celebrate this at home, and yet they choose to come here to this very temple. As I walk across the tables, there's one common thing that I can find, and that's Ang Ku Kueh.
But it wasn't easy getting these mountains of Ang Ku Kueh ready for the altar. I should know, because hours ago, I was in the thick of the action.
collect？ 买今天只卖6粒哦，花生豆沙昂菇桂，要拜拜的哈，今天拜天公。
That's Kelvin, and he's the one in charge of a 48-hour marathon at Xixiang to make and sell 10,000 Ang Ku Kuehs. Which is why he has summoned me to the shop.
Hi Kelvin!
Hey!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! You're here to help, right?
Of course, I'm ready.
I got your gear ready here.
Thank you.
Put it on.
So what am I doing today?
You're gonna help me pack and sell a lot of kueh. Today is the busiest day of the year for us.
Usually I'm always behind the kitchen, but at least I have a guide here to help me remember the prices. It's pretty busy now. Each time I'm selling more than one box. I've been selling for about 30 minutes and I've sold about 35 boxes and it's not stopping. And still, the packing's going on over there and there's a line outside. There's probably like 10 people. And I realized that half of the kuehs that I've sold here is for the prayers, for the Jade Emperor's birthday.
Okay, Justin, we are running out of kueh. So we're still making a lot of kueh behind.
Okay.
So I need you to pack them in 6.
All right.
Just lay them out in 6. So you are very important because you're the last person to see the kueh. You see, I have this piece of kueh here. That you have to reject.
Okay.
Especially for the money kueh. Because you don't want broken money to be given out to the customer.
How is the Ang Ku Kueh being used in this celebrations?
All these kueh are meant for the offering table. We offer up the Ang Ku Kueh, the Ang Yi, and the Money Kueh.
Money Kueh is a form of Ang Ku Kueh, along with Ang Yi that's made specially for the Jade Emperor's birthday. Together with the tortoiseshell original, they represent the devotees' wishes for wealth, prosperity, and longevity.
Everyone wants to pray to the Jade Emperor at midnight to be the first to wish him happy birthday, to get the best blessing. If you do it later in the day, the Jade Emperor got no more energy for your blessing. That's the story behind it.
Where did this custom come from?
It's more of a Taoist tradition that originates from China. So mainly the Hokkien are the ones that follow this practice. China itself don't really follow a lot of practice and custom after the Cultural Revolution, but we still follow our roots. So it's up to us Singaporeans, Malaysians to keep this tradition and custom alive.
Can I get one set for the table?
Of course. So how many pieces do you want?
I don't know, what should I get?
How hot do you want to be?
I want very, very, very hot.
You should get the full set, 12 of each. One piece for each month of the year that you receive blessing from the heavens. You know where to pack, right? Go and pack yourself. Go, 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 go.
I have 36 Ang Ku Kuehs to take part in the Jade Emperor's birthday celebrations. I've never done this before, but I'm told that this is going to bring me maximum fortune. Benjamin is a Taoist priest who has conducted prayers for this festival for 12 years. Why is the Jade Emperor's birthday such a significant affair?
In the past, Taoism was a shamanistic way of praying. So people pray to the environment, to heaven and earth and water. Jade Emperor is like the president of the three realms, the heaven, the earth and the sea. People want to say thanks to him. So they actually choose his birthday.
I see a lot of deities here.
Okay, so
here I don't see like a Jade Emperor statue.
People actually pray to the heaven. They believe that the Jade Emperor is there, doesn't need a statue because he's a ruler. His presence is felt.
Is Ang Ku Kueh a must-have on the table when offering to the Jade Emperor?
Traditionally, it's a must-have. So what do people pray for actually? They pray for wealth, longevity, and also for prosperity. And in Chinese culture, so you see this Ang Ku Kueh over here, it's in the shape of the money. So this is for wealth, and this is for longevity because it's like a turtle shell, and turtle signifies long life. And also the Ang Yi, where in Chinese culture, 圆圆满满. It is round, so everything to be on the prosperous side. This actually originated from Cuisine. So the practice may date back like 4,000 over years when Taoism first started.
The tortoise is a sacred and auspicious animal because it actually has a long life. Therefore, it's used to represent longevity, good fortune, and good luck. From worship of the tortoise, which is pre-Taoism, pre-Buddhism, the Ang Ku Kueh become a link to that very, very old past of Chinese civilization. When the Hokkien people started to move further south, mainly for trade, into the Malay archipelago, naturally their worship came along and they bring along the Ang Ku Kueh into the Malay archipelago.
And that signifies the start of the Jade Emperor's birthday. The chief priest is going around blessing the offerings the devotees brought, so that those who take a bite out of them will be blessed with good fortune for the rest of the year. I've been eating Ang Ku Kuehs all my life, but I had no idea that this kueh had traditions that go so far back. As a foodie and a chef, I need to learn how to make this age-old recipe. So I'm returning to Jixiang for Kelvin to show me the process from start to finish.
This has been cooking for 15 minutes, it's ready. So what we cooked just now is just water and flour. This is more like a binding agent. So right now we can add in the rest of the ingredient. Glutinous rice flour. And then add a bit of oil, water and sugar. A bit of mixing and the dough will be ready. It's actually a very simple dough to make.
now that the dough is all done,
Yes.
we are going to shape them, right?
Correct.
Okay, so show me how to make one, and
Right.
I will learn from you.
We're making the tausa sweet mung bean filling today. I'll do it real slow for you. Put the filling in the middle, turn it around, cover it up. It goes into the mold. Give it a good tap. And this is the banana leaf we're using. That's it.
How long have you been making ang ku kueh?
My mom started making ang ku kueh in 1986. So it's been 36 years.
Did the recipe change at all?
I like to tell people that this version of ang ku kueh is actually version 3. The China version 1, and then the Peranakan version 2, my mom version 3.
So, in China versus the ang ku kueh that you do here, what's the main difference?
The whole recipe is totally different. The banana leaf is what we use in Singapore. In China, they use another broad leaf that they can find locally. The main difference from the China one is the filling is savory. So, ang ku kueh from China was brought to Singapore back then, during the Great Migration, where a lot of Chinese immigrants came to the Malaccan Straits. That's where the Peranakans got to make ang ku kueh. People keep thinking that ang ku kueh is actually Peranakan, but it has its origin from Fujian, China. Because of the local ingredients, the Peranakan started using coconut milk. They made it not a savory item, but more like a dessert.
Do they still eat it today in
Yes.
Fujian, China?
Every household in Fujian, China has a different ang ku kueh mold that's handmade, and it's not like ours, which is generic. Ours is considered still Peranakan style, mainly from the filling and the texture of the skin. But our version is made so that we take into consideration our production and the shelf life. We change it a bit to suit mass production. We don't use coconut milk because it makes the kueh turn rancid really fast.
It's my first time.
That's pretty decent.
Can sell?
For half price.
Half price. Okay, not bad, not bad. At least
That-
we still make money.
Yeah.
So Kelvin says the ang ku kueh that we know today was shaped by the Peranakans. But what changes did they make? I think I need to ask someone who is Peranakan.
Chinese migrants set sail for Southeast Asia, bringing along customs and foods that have survived the test of time. But I'm told that the Peranakans were the ones who shaped the ang ku kueh into the sweet dessert that we are familiar with today.
The Peranakan communities formed through the intermarriage between Chinese migrants, especially merchants in the earlier periods like the Ming and Qing era, and local women from within the archipelago.
Benjamin Sek is a 6th generation Peranakan who serves up traditional Nonya fare at True Blue Cuisine.
How long have you been making ang ku kueh?
Since young, but we don't use the word ang ku kueh in the Peranakan family. We call it kueh ku.
Can you show me how to make kueh?
Of course, definitely.
Kueh is Hokkien for the Chinese character guo. It usually refers to snacks made from rice ground into powder, and the term has been adopted into Malay to refer to a wide range of sweet delights.
Benjamin, so how do we make the fillings?
Okay, basically you need mung bean. So you soak them overnight, then you steam them with lots of pandan leaves to give the flavor. After steaming, you smash it, comes out like that. Then you just add in coconut cream and sugar. The Nyonyas add coconut milk to give the lemak taste. Lemak is like more richer taste, more buttery taste. You even use coconut cream for the dough.
So I guess this practice doesn't come from the Chinese, right?
No, this comes from the Malay actually.
The Malay side of the
Yes,
family, right?
yes, yes.
For the kueh ku filling for the Nonya culture, has it always been mung beans?
Yeah, definitely mung beans. For traditional Peranakan kueh ku, right, no peanuts inside. Mung beans are very small, the beans, right, it's a lot. So multiply, so when you eat, you multiply your wealth. Peanuts is only used for cooking, not for kueh.
Why is that so?
Because kuehs are normally used for good occasions and also for tea times. Because the Peranakan families normally gambles at home in the afternoon. So afternoon when they play, they have to prepare kuehs for their guests to eat. Those old ladies that come to the house and play, they are very particular in food. You must serve the best of the best. This is why kueh is normally different from food again. Peranakan are very particular what they are brought up to eat. They always stick on that taste. they don't like to change their food. This is why it's handed down generation after generation. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you do from here?
We need to make the dough. Then you put in the sweet potato. Then of course water, coconut milk, then the red colouring. The very important part is actually the sweet potato. When we add sweet potato into the dough, it makes the dough soft. After steaming, it will not be hardened, it's still very soft till the next steam. Why we add coconut milk? We want the rich flavour, that coconut gives a nice flavour.
A lot of these flavors are very familiar to me as a Southeast Asian. Who started putting these ingredients into these kuehs?
It's the ladies, of course. Ladies always in the kitchen, right? Our ancestors, the ladies are Malay. They love to cook food with coconut, ingredients that you can get easily locally. Peranakan food is a fusion of Chinese and Malay back all the way to 14th century to today. We have ingredients and way of cooking from China, and we mix with the local Malay way of cooking to give this beautiful dish.
For these kueh kus, what were the Peranakans using it for?
Kueh kus is very important for the Peranakans because you use for birthdays. You know the Chinese normally give the peach bun. For Peranakan, we don't have the peach bun. We only serve kueh ku. We have the black kueh kus that used for ancestor worship, and also we have the white kueh ku and no filling inside. That is for funeral.
Okay, so is my dough all right here?
Yes. So now you need to pinch the dough into little balls. Put the ball in, wrap it up. Okay, now the oil comes in. Okay, then the oils come in, then you mold it. So every family will have different molds. The molds based on how the family likes the tortillas the mold to be. It. Here comes the tortillas.
I realize the size is bigger than
yes,
the Hokkien ones.
The Nyonya likes the kueh ku to be big, yeah. The bigger the better it is, yeah. And also they like to have the kueh ku with the tail, with the leg and the head, everything on it.
Ah, I see.
Can you see the tail?
I can see that. Yeah.
Then the leg, the forelegs and the head here.
So this is actually important to have.
Yeah. After that we will steam it. Okay, here comes Lang Ku Kueh.
Wow. Smells good.
You taste the difference?
The coconut flavor is very pronounced. And I think I understand why the sweet potato is in there too. I actually can taste the sweet potato in the skin. It's actually a lot of lemak.
Lemak, right? It bursts into your mouth, right?
It's really fragrant.
With its distinct appearance and auspicious meanings, the Ang Ku Kueh is a food that befits the gods. But if you go closer, it holds a couple of similarities to another kueh, the plainer-looking tutu kueh. Resting on fragrant pieces of banana leaves, both kuehs have a sweet filling encased in a layer of skin. They are also a part of the story of Hokkiens in Southeast Asia. But here is where the stories diverge.
Chinese migration to Southeast Asia is widely believed to have begun from the Song dynasty onwards, when new policies towards foreign trade in China allowed Chinese merchants and shipping to venture out of China. The earliest communities in Southeast Asia are known to be Hokkien of Fujian province in China, but from the Qing dynasty, especially the 18th century, you see the growing migration of people from other parts of southern China, like the Guangdong areas, partly in response to the growth in demand in China for Southeast Asian products like tin, gold, pepper, cambier. During the 18th century, local rulers in Southeast Asia, as well as the Dutch East India Company, trying to attract more labor from southern China to Southeast Asia. The term Sinke would have been used to distinguish the new migrants from the earlier Chinese migrants.
If the Ang Ku Kueh tells the story of the earlier waves of Chinese migrants to the region, then the equivalent for the new migrants, or Sinke, has to be the tutu kueh. This man was among the first group of people selling it. Originally from Fujian, he ventured out to Nanyang in the 1930s. Now, his grandson Cohen is continuing his legacy.
When he came here, he didn't have a lot of skills. So he was introduced to become a barber initially, but didn't make much money. He was cutting hair at the back alley of the streets. He came from Fujian, China. Like many immigrants that when they first reach Singapore, they will look for their own clan. He was introduced to tutu kueh because they were already selling tutu kueh. They were like the first batch of pioneers to sell tutu kueh here. He started about 1949 after World War II.
And was there tutu kueh back then in Fujian?
They have something similar, is something called sang kueh or song gao. Ingredients would be like rice, water and sugar and steam. That would be similar to the plain tutu kueh that we are selling now.
Where was this tutu kueh sold?
Back then there were more than 20 families. So everyone would have their own territory. So if someone was there selling, they wouldn't go. My grandfather would wake up very early, 3-4 a.m. He would start making, and then he would put it in his cart and then push his cart out. We would be at Chinatown, Orchard, and then even Sembawang, Woodlands.
So why is it called tutu kueh?
There are many stories about how the name came about, but according to my grandfather, because this is a push cart, we use it to push it along the streets. So in Hokkien, when we say push, is tu. It's just an easy way for them to name it tutu kueh. Another reason is that back in the olden days, the steamer is not very nicely done. So when the steam comes out, it creates a tu sound. Yeah, but now we cannot relate this anymore because there's no sound here anymore. Another reason might be the ingredients and the shape of the kueh is similar to the Malay putu piring. The main difference is that for the Malay putu piring, the filling is gula melaka and the coconut will be on the outside. For tutu, right, the filling with the coconut and the gula melaka is all in the kueh itself.
The kueh tutu is closely related in terms of the texture of the putu piring. I was looking at Songao, which has been claimed to be the origin of the kueh tutu. But how Songao is prepared is very different. It's a huge, cake that has been cut, as opposed to dainty ones that is made by individual molds. The Songao is firm. It's almost doughy, as opposed to loose, fluffy that we see in kueh tutu or in putu piring. Kueh tutu and putu piring has the same sort of consistencies. The word tutu itself is a derivative of putu. The difference is just one syllable.
With food, it's very hard to pin down their origins to a single point. So, it's very possible that the first tutu kueh hawkers drew inspiration from both Songao and putu piring, since they both have been around for a very long time. Hi Aisha.
Hey, hi Justin, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Aisha is the 5th generation owner of this putu piring brand that now has 7 outlets across Singapore. But during her great-grandmother's time, she sold the snack by the roadside.
Did she make a lot of money from selling this putu piring?
Looking at the pictures that my late grandmother showed to me, I can see my great-great-grandmother wearing gold bangles, especially big ones at the feet. That's why I think it's quite lucrative during that time.
It's also a form of kueh, correct?
Yes.
But what does the putu stand for and what does piring mean?
Putu basically means a dessert that is made from rice flour. Piring is a Malay word known as the saucer, a small plate.
Putu is a South Indian term for steamed rice cake. Putu piring is closely related to putu bambu. Putu bambu refers to rice cake that has been steamed with bamboo. There is such a thing as localization. While putu bambu has made its way here, but when it's localized, that shape has changed to the shape of a piring, a saucer or a dish. You look around in the Malay world, you find coconut all over, and coconut shell is used as a receptacle. The concavity of the coconut shell with the compacted rice cake, you will get putu piring. Putu has been around for a long time in our region, thanks in part to the Indianization of the region.
Southeast Asia was in the Indian sphere of influence from 290 BC till the 15th century. In fact, before the spread of Islam, the Indian religions of Hinduism and Buddhism held sway in the region. And it was the trade during this period of Indian influence that carried many Indian merchants along with their foods to the region.
So Aisha, how long have you or your family been making this putu piring?
The dessert that you are eating is actually almost a century old, because my late great-great-grandmother started since 1930s, before the World War II. So that's when we started making putu piring.
So during the Japanese occupation, did your family continue selling putu piring?
Yes, they did. During World War II, food is very scarce. It's hard to get food anywhere. So when there are street vendors selling food, that's where people quickly rush and buy some. So that's why I believe last time during my great-great-grandmother time, they are selling quite well.
Rice is one of the key ingredients in putu piring, and during the Japanese occupation, rice was rationed. How did your family manage to get hold of this stock?
Last time, our family owns a land. So that piece of land, they normally plant some paddies. So we have a lot of rice. That's where she started grinding the rice into flour. And then plus coconut, you can find in abundance during the kampung days. So that's where she take down and she literally cooked last time.
To still have access to rice under the brutal Japanese rule, Aisha's great-great-grandmother was one of the luckier ones. With shortages, kueh makers had to seek alternatives. This route became the backbone of many kuehs. But why were people still making kuehs during that dark period? Lee Gyok Boy wrote about life in Singapore, which was renamed Sionanto under the Japanese occupation.
How was hawking affected back then during the Japanese occupation?
People sold crockery, furniture, all kinds of stuff appeared in the black market. Food, I'm sure, was sold. Food was the currency. The Japanese currency, the banana money, was highly inflated. People were carrying around with bags of stuff just to buy very simple things. Barter trade was more sensible because you knew what you were getting.
Under great oppression, and there's absolutely almost nothing coming into Singapore in terms of imports. Food is in such great shortage. Why do people still make kuehs?
One, because you could. The ingredients for the simple kuehs were available. The Nyonya kuehs that they made with rice before, they would have had to switch to tapioca. People grew tapioca. Fortunately, you can do quite a few things with tapioca. You can boil, you can bake. There was kueh bingka. And kueh bingka certainly has a different taste from boiled tapioca. It's very boring to eat the same thing day after day after day. Even in hard times, if you can, try to at least have a change of flavor.
Can you show me how to make kueh bingka?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
How many ingredients are there?
Tapioca, coconut milk, and palm sugar. Banana leaf for lining your tin, and pandan, of course. So, variety of Nyonya kuehs were possible because these ingredients were native.
All right, so let's start making it then.
Okay.
First
you have to clean it.
No,
it's a root. This tapioca was originally covered with dirt because it was dug up from the ground.
So why was tapioca being planted everywhere?
Because one, there was no rice. Only the Japanese, only those with the right connections had access to rice. You had to queue up for food to collect your rations, and which meant hours standing in line just to get your small quota of rice, sugar, or whatever it was they were giving out. for that day. A lot of time was spent doing very basic survival stuff. Besides, just because there were ration cards didn't mean that you got the rations. The Shonan administration encouraged the population to grow their own vegetables, tapioca and so on, by giving out seeds. They were growing tapioca on the padang in front of City Hall. And that was the first thing that was removed when the Japanese surrendered. They cleared the padang of tapioca plants.
So who were making this kueh bingkat back then?
My grandmother was a Nyonya. During the Japanese occupation, made kueh for sale. I presume this could have been one of these kuehs that she made. And my father had to go sell it at the market. So you need a coconut milk.
Are you just eyeballing it or it's just by experience?
Let me remind you that such things as scales did not exist in those days. Everything was the agar-agar method. You look at it and say, I think that's enough. Or you taste the thing and say, okay, it's sweet enough.
So which one is the best piece for you?
The best parts are all the more burnt ones, so it's all the outer bits. It's also more chewy.
It is quite sticky.
It's also more fragrant. How's it?
The char. Oh, it's not too sweet. So was this kueh created and invented during the Japanese occupation?
I don't think so. I think it was a traditional local kueh amongst the Indonesians and Malays.
If this kueh was created before World War II, are there any Dutch or British influence in this kueh?
Absolutely not. But the kind of baking that we know of today was definitely from the colonial era. Because wheat flour is a Western European thing. One of the commonest things that you see today is the Indonesian kueh lapis. That was definitely a Dutch thing. It needs wheat flour, it needs butter, lots of butter, and of course eggs. Every country in the world had eggs because they had chickens. But the butter, the flour were all European.
So roughly when did the Europeans come to Southeast Asia and why?
The Portuguese took Malacca, which was a very famous trading port, in 1511. And for about 100 years, the Portuguese controlled Malacca. Then came the Dutch. They captured Malacca from the Portuguese. The Dutch came here from the 17th century and they were in competition with the British. And they were both in competition to capture the spice trade in this part of the world. Because spices were all from this part of the world.
But why were spices such prized items? To find out, I got in touch with history professor Goh Gyok Yen.
Spices were extremely coveted items. This was before the age of refrigeration. So meat will rot or decompose over a period of time. And so spices helped to mask the taste of rotting meat. They were also used as perfume for medicinal purposes. And because of the fact that spices were difficult to obtain, because we're talking about Southeast Asia, far away from Europe, a lot of distance had to be covered. So even a small batch of it cost a lot of money. It's been said that the spices that are brought back basically is worth its weight in gold.
So what spices were they here for in particular?
The Europeans were here for quite a number of different spices. And so one good example is the nutmeg. So nutmeg was brought to Singapore by Raffles. So we are standing at the site of what would be the first botanic gardens in Singapore. Here we were surrounded by nutmeg trees. So these were a very sought after item. They originate from the eastern Indonesian islands of what we call the Malucas Islands, the Spice Islands. I have one example here as well. There's maize on the exterior and the nutmeg is the interior. So you get two spices out of one. Another key spice that Europeans were interested in is effectively clove. So we're standing right next to a clove tree. It's not fruiting right now. What they do is they don't wait for the cloves flowers to blossom. They should be actually harvested when they are still a bud. Then you also have cinnamon that comes from a tree bark. So you have that in Sumatra, much of Indonesia now, in India as well, and Sri Lanka.
So there are many varieties of cinnamon.
You also get that in southern China as well. Yet another spice would be cardamom, and so you get that in South India.
Demand for coveted spices in Europe led them to Southeast Asia, ushering the start to the age of colonialism in the region.
I'm a chef. Using spices like these is an everyday practice in the kitchen.
By mixing cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, and then grounding it up, makes a spice mix. That is used in this cake, the Kueh Lapis Legit. The Kueh Lapis Legit subverts all kueh stereotypes. It's buttery and closer to a cake than a typical kueh. But it retains that Southeast Asian edge with the distinct taste of warm spices. But how exactly did the arrival of the Europeans birth this cake? Peter Lee is a historian with a keen interest in Southeast Asian history.
Peter, you're a historian. Amongst all the information that you collect, why do you collect the cookbooks?
Now, this is the funny thing. I am not a cook at all, but I love cookbooks. They tell me so much about how cultures form. In Southeast Asia in particular, these recipe books have ingredients and methods and dishes that come from everywhere. It's really mind-boggling. And to see the presence of this kind of hybridity from an early period is very fascinating for me.
What is the oldest mention of the Kueh Lapis recipe in your collection?
I found the earliest mention of it among the books that I have in a recipe book from 1845. I can show you here. So there is this wonderful recipe for Kueh Lapis, and it is written in a vernacular Malay influenced by Dutch spelling. It's really amusing. It has, for example, 1.5 pounds of butter and 40 eggs, which I think is pretty incredible. What we have in this is a list of ingredients, and already I'm fascinated by the fact that it is so hybrid. So you have butter, which is European. You also have a mention of brandy, but also this kulit jeruk Cina, which is the Chinese orange peel. And then it has cloves, which is local, cinnamon, and a mixture of ingredients from East and West. Looking at the way the recipe is so mixed up, it might have emerged within a mixed race community. And Batavia or Jakarta, where this recipe book comes from, was so international for a couple of hundred years already, by 1845. Batavia was founded by the Dutch as a colonial city in 1618. And immediately it attracted people from all over. Among them, a large proportion of the Dutch military, for example, came from Germany. Europe at that time was going through a lot of turmoil. You had a lot of poor young men from different parts of Europe wanting work, and the Dutch East Indies Company provided employment. So German could have brought this German traditional cake called the Baumkuchen, which might have influenced the early development of the Kueh Lapis.
The recipe of the Kueh Lapis back then and today, has it changed much? Has it kept its integrity?
There are some people who do the classic Indonesian style. Let's not forget, since Singapore was founded, people have been coming over from different parts of Indonesia. So we are culturally part of the same world. We have people who come from Java, or people who have ancestors who came from there. So that's how these recipes ended up being part of our own food tradition. It's not appropriated in the sense that somebody just looked up a recipe book and just copied the recipe. This is food that people grew up with and brought with them. So it belongs to us as much as it does to anywhere else. We mustn't forget that people have been moving around for such a long time, and we can't pretend these links don't exist.
In the 1950s, when I was a young kid, I used to visit an Indonesian Chinese family. And one of the things that I got to eat was kueh lapis. Kueh lapis began being sold in the shops when Indonesian Chinese women began making it for sale. One was called Anastasia.
And I'm paying Anastasia a visit to find out just what drove her and her kueh lapis legit from Indonesia to the Lion City.
How did you learn how to make your kueh lapis?
I learned kueh lapis from my mother, and I was 19. One cake take 2 hours to do it. It's very difficult, not easy to make. The layer by layer, you can't stop. And then that time we use the charcoal is very hot. In Indonesia we call it spikuk.
But Anastasia's growing up years was shaken when civil unrest plagued Indonesia from 1965 to 1966. There were large-scale killings targeting communist sympathizers. Many of them were ethnically Chinese. Between 500,000 to 1 million people were killed, according to estimates. While Anastasia survived the ordeal unharmed, she seized an opportunity 5 years later to settle in Singapore.
When did you start making kueh lapis in Singapore?
At home. After I give it to my first child, I start to make the cake for my friend, for my relative.
Do you still make kueh lapis right now?
Yeah, we make the kueh lapis in our central kitchen.
And what's the name of your first shop?
Bengawan Solo.
Bengawan Solo, the bakery synonymous with traditional cakes and kuehs. With 40 outlets around Singapore, it's practically a household name.
Let me introduce my son, Henry.
Hi Henry, nice to meet you.
Hi Justin, nice to meet you too. So let's go and see how our kueh lapis is done. Let's go.
Let's go, after you.
So this is our lapis area. So this is where they're doing the actual baking of the lapis. You can see the layers are all still done by hand, one by one. So it's 18 layers per cake.
So Henry, of all the products that Bengawan Solo sells, how popular is the kueh lapis?
The kueh lapis is very popular, especially during festive seasons, like Chinese New Year, Christmas. For us, traditionally, it's always been 18 layers. This cake has become very synonymous with the symbolism of prosperity, pu pu gao sheng. People have come to associate this with a festive cake.
So Henry, what goes into the batter to make this kueh lapis?
Two very important components of kueh lapis is the rempah and the butter. Rempah is spice mix. Our spice mix includes things like cinnamon, cloves, and other spices. We also use Dutch butter.
Why do you use Dutch butter?
Most Indonesian recipes, not just kueh lapis, pineapple tarts, cookies, they use this butter because it imparts quite a unique buttery flavor. It's quite creamy, it's quite rich, and when you add it in, you will taste it straight away. I can say that it's so pronounced and quite dominant, this flavor.
From Ang Ku Kueh to kueh lapis legit, each one of these came to be thanks to centuries of migration and cultural mixing. And nothing else represents the melting pot that is Southeast Asia, quite like kueh.
Rendang.
Hi, can I get nasi with perkedel, paru balado, and cumi hitam? Can I also get the rendang? Yes, please. Now, rendang is really a dish for the common people. Yet, hidden within this is a backstory that's anything but simple.
I am Archie, a chef and culinary adventurer. And in this episode of Southeast Asia on a Plate, I'll be unearthing the complex story behind this delicious concoction. How is rendang closely linked to our very human yearning for travel? And what surprising role did European colonial powers play in making rendang more fiery than it originally was? Join me as I uncover the fascinating stories rendang has to tell us about this part of Southeast Asia and its people. My hometown, Jakarta. It's a treasure trove of food for thought. One of those treasures is beef rendang. It's on almost every plate along these streets. As a chef, I can only dream that one day one of my culinary inventions would have such universal appeal. It makes me curious. How was this crowd favorite created to begin with? To find out, I reach out to two prominent residents of the rendang universe. Halo, pagi Uni.
Pagi, apa kabar?
Kabar baik.
Kenalin sama Pak Dante.
Halo, Pak.
Saya dengan Arsi.
Meet Reno Andam Suri, also known as the Rendang Traveler, after this international award-winning book that she wrote.
Itu kan pergi yang membuat buku ini. Membuat buku ini pergi ke kota-kota di beberapa kota di Sumatera Barat. Tapi travelingnya punya misi khusus. Misi khususnya adalah mendokumentasikan rendang.
According to Reno, the highlands of West Sumatra is the home of rendang.
Uni, gimana nih kita?
Apa nih kita nih?
Kenapa kita ada di sini hari ini?
Legend, termasuk salah satu rumah makan yang tertua di Jakarta untuk mencoba makanan Minang yang otentik ke sini.
Jadi kita tuh mulainya dulu yang pertama tuh tahun 60 gitu. Jadi saya masih kecil lah gitu ya. Jadi saya waktu itu SD kelas 1 di Padang. Jadi keluarga kita pindah ke sini. Kebetulan ya orang tua saya itu dengan beberapa temannya itu mulai buka usaha rumah makan Surya. Jadi mulai itulah kita itu ya sampai sekarang bisa sampai sekarang ya.
Here in Jakarta, restaurants like the one we're in are known as Padang restaurants. Named after a city 1,300 kilometers away from Jakarta, Padang is the capital of the West Sumatra province. It is home to the Minangkabau people, also known as Minangs. They are the 7th largest of Indonesia's 1,340 recognized ethnic groups, and their culture is closely tied to the history of rendang.
Dia mulainya bagaimana, Pak?
Ketemunya tambah sengaja. Masak dari gulai, kemudian mereka hangatkan lagi. Udah jadi kalio. Rendang tuh proses menihilkan air. Akhirnya dia menjadi kering, menjadi awet. Kalau udah awet, akhirnya dibawalah untuk pergi. Orang naik haji ya Pak? Iya. Orang naik haji tuh dulu naik kapal 3 bulan.
Ya, lama sekali.
Rendangnya tuh di kaleng. Memang tradisinya orang Minangkabau itu suka merantau.
Ya. Kalau kita ini dari awalnya merantau itu kan yang kita bawa itu rendang gitu.
One translation of merantau is to migrate. It means to leave the community. The idea, though, is that you leave the community to cari rezeki, to look for fortune or prosperity, to prove yourself. It can mean getting an education, it could be setting up a business, it could be working as a merchant or a trader. It's a cultural practice in which primarily men leave the Minangkabau homeland to prove themselves, to go throughout the archipelago, including Singapore and Malaysia.
merantau ini orang-orang Minang dan kemudian mempunyai peranan penting di kota-kota baru tersebut. Jadi terbayang bahwa akhirnya rendang itu makin dikenal orang banyak.
Rendang ini kan kita kalau keliling kemana-mana itu termasuk di sini Pak, kan jual rendang juga kan? Iya. Nah, tapi yang ku dengar juga rendang itu makanan spesial katanya, yang katanya ada pas nikahan, lagi upacara gitu. Jadi sebenarnya yang mana sih Pak gitu? Yang betul tuh yang mana sih?
Dua-duanya. Kalau acara-acara adat itu gimana? Rendang itu adalah kapalo jamba atau kapalo samba. Kepalanya lauk-lauk. Kalau deretan-deretan lauk-lauk itu panjang, dia tuh ditaruhnya di ujung. Jadi benar-benar kayak kepala barisan lauk. Kayak pengangkatan adat datu misalnya, atau melamar, acara lamaran, acara pernikahan, acara-acara adat lainnya, itu selalu ada rendang yang spesial juga.
It seems like rendang had a dual purpose. Besides being sustenance for long-distance travels, it is also a highlight at important Minang traditional rituals. How did rendang become so important? It's been a long time since I've seen rendang served in a traditional setting, which is why I'm heading to the home of the Minangkabau people, West Sumatra. It's lunchtime. I am at the kitchen that's reputed to serve the best rendang in Padang. And I discovered that the rendang appetite it caters to is huge.
Jadi ini berapa banyak sehari?
80 kilo.
Habis setiap hari?
Wow,
80 kilo ya? Wow. And that's how much rendang people eat every day in this place alone. That's a lot.
And within these 80 kilos, there might be more to chew on than just mouthfuls of meat.
Halo Uni.
Halo ya, selamat siang.
Uni, barusan saya baca di depan ada tulisan filosofi rendang. Saya penasaran, pengen tahu lebih lanjut lagi artinya apa sih ini?
Jadi ada 3 unsur penting dalam membuat rendang itu: daging, cabai, dan santan. Yang jadi kalau kita analogikan itu adalah filosofi masyarakat Minang dalam bermasyarakat. Jadi kita sebut sebagai 3 tumpu sejarangan. Jadi daging itu melambangkan nenek mama yang dituakan, yang dihormati. Kalau daging mewakili itu nenek mama karena dia tegas, kuat.
Sementara kalau cabai?
Cabai ini sebagai alim ulama karena dia pedas. Jadi alim ulama itu biasanya mereka memiliki pemikiran yang tajam, ucapan yang tegas, pedas seperti cabai sehingga kita memahami dan mematuhi dari perkataan dari alim ulama.
Sementara kalau ini melambangkan apa tadi?
Cadiak pandai.
Cadiak pandai.
Dia yang menyatukan seluruhnya, menyatukan semua unsur ini dengan ilmu pengetahuannya, gitu. Dengan kalau nggak ada santan ya susah juga menyatunya. Jadi dengan adanya cadiak pandai sebagai salah satu penopangnya, maka bisa menyatukan unsur-unsur lainnya. Kemudian 3 unsur penting ini, memang bumbu rendang ini cukup banyak dan beragam.
Bumbunya kan saya lihat, yang ini ada bawang putih, bawang merah, ini jahe, serai, terus daun jeruk, daun salam.
Lengkuas.
Ini ketumbar sama ini apa, Un?
Saya nggak tahu persis ini kayu, tapi ini ada dijual di pasaran banyak ini. Kulit kayu namanya, memang salah satu bumbu. Dan itu melambangkan masyarakat dengan keberagamannya. Dan merandang ini juga dibuat secara bersama-sama dengan penuh kesabaran, ketelatenan, dan harus tenaga yang kuat. Karena ini masaknya enggak bisa 1 jam, 2 jam, tapi
masaknya lama ya.
Lama sekali untuk mendapatkan cita rasa yang pas begitu.
We always think of rendang as a dish, but in the Minang language, rendang comes from the word merandang, which means to cook slowly. Because traditionally, cooking rendang is painstaking and methodical. And sometimes, it takes an entire village to cook a decent pot of it. I am in the agricultural area of Tanah Datar, situated in the middle of West Sumatra. The Minangkabau people, just like their forefathers, spend their days treading through muddy rice fields during planting season. But after the rice is harvested, they will wade through the mud one final time for this. This bull race, or should I say bull run, is said to be a form of thanksgiving for a good harvest. Others say it's to showcase the quality of the herd. Because much like a sports car, bulls are a status symbol for their owners and are not used for farming anymore. Social standing aside, there are other reasons why the people here hold bovine creatures close to their heart.
The name Minangkabau, if you break it down into Minang and Kabau, means victorious buffalo. And the legend is that there was a conflict between two neighboring communities. Often in the story, the other neighboring community is Java. And they decided, instead of having a battle, instead of losing human lives, let's have a buffalo fight. And they all agree to this. And the Minangkabau people decide, instead of sending out a fierce bull to participate in the buffalo fight, they instead take a calf and they don't feed it for several days till it becomes very thirsty, very hungry. In some of the legends, they sharpen the horns. In other legends, they put knives. And then it's the day of the battle. The other community shows up with their bull, and the bull is fierce and huge, and the Minangkabau people release the small calf. And the calf, thinking that they can get food from the large bull, runs over to hopefully find milk and goes in with the horns and spears the larger bull and kills it. Therefore, victorious buffalo.
So important are bulls to the Minangkabau that the design of their homes represents the horns of the buffalo. But, aesthetics aside, these traditional homes are also said to be earthquake resistant. Their foundations are not embedded into the ground. Instead, the wooden structures are placed on a flat stone, allowing them to shift flexibly in a quake. It's a form of architecture meant to suit the geography of the Minang's homeland. West Sumatra is situated in one of Indonesia's earthquake-prone areas, sitting close to moving tectonic plates. Southeast Asia lies at the junction of 4 such plates. The shifting plates created 180 active volcanoes in the region. Close to 130 of these live volcanoes, which are part of what's known as the Pacific Ring of Fire, are in Indonesia. One of them is Mount Marapi. Despite Marapi's constant lava spills, the Minangkabau folk continue living at the foot of the mountain. To them, danger is a trade-off for the rich volcanic soil. They are mostly farmers who are always thankful for being spared with each eruption. The latest as recent as December 2023. So today, there's to be a prayer and Thanksgiving ceremony. I've been invited to attend and also observe these women preparing their beef rendang that's to be served later.
Wah, banyak juga ini yang mesti dikerjain ya. Ini saya boleh bantu-bantu?
Enggak boleh, ini khusus ibu-ibu aja di sini semuanya.
Saya chef loh ini.
Ini kan kita nggak butuh chef di sini nih.
Oh.
Ngambil kayu aja dedeknya.
I'm really not used to this side of cooking. Ya, taruh sini aja.
Ada. Sampai juga ya. Ya. Nah itu udah dari ketentuan adatnya Minangkabau gitu. Jadi laki-laki khususnya ngambil kayu di hutan dan perempuan di dapur gitu.
Laki-laki jadi nggak boleh masuk dapur?
Ya nggak boleh dong. Jadi kalau laki-laki biasanya ngapain sih? Lebih banyaknya di luar, di lapau atau di surau.
Di surau?
Ya, saya belajar agama sama silat.
Jadi laki-laki itu belajar agama gitu, belajar silat. Perempuan ya udah di rumah aja.
Ya lebih itu apa? Lebih terjaga aja gitu kan. Kita nggak tahu hal apa yang terjadi di luar gitu.
Kasihan dong perempuan.
Ya enggak lah.
Minangkabau culture is matrilineal, and what that means essentially is that they have quite a bit of power within the society and culture. Upon marriage, you usually live in the women's household. Also, property inheritance goes through the female line and not the male line. They own the rice fields, and so you see a lot. Women are very strongly involved in the economy. In businesses, they are the primary leaders of society.
4 hours has passed since I went to collect firewood, and the only thing that has happened with the constant stirring and bubbling is that the mixture has thickened.
Yeah. Oh. So this is the second stage of the rendang making process, and it's turning into a kalio. You can identify this by the color of the coconut oil. It's red in color and it's rising to the top, and the coconut fat, it turns into this very thick liquid, which is really good to eat.
The key process of cooking rendang takes several hours. From gulai, which is a thinner curry, it goes to kalio, which is a thicker form of gulai. It then continues bubbling until there's no more liquid, only drier spiced meat.
So we started from daylight, and this is already nighttime, and that's how long rendang takes. It's a long time.
But to the cooks, getting it right is a reward.
Sebelum kita mengadakan cara ya, mari kita membakar kemayan ya. Untuk itu mudah-mudahan segala arwah ya, orang tua-tua kita yang telah terlebur daripada kita, mudah-mudahan beliau selamat ya. Kalau seandainya ada beliau itu dalam kubur mendapat kehausan, ya dapat air. Kalau lapar dapat makanan, kalau panas mendapat dingin ya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kita yang berada di desa Pariangan ya, mudah-mudahan selamat ya dari ancaman Gunung Merapi ya. Ini itu barangkali yang dapat disampaikan. Demikian saja. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
At the end of the ceremony, the rendang, which is considered an honored food, is served. From spices to meat, because of what the ingredients represent, it takes pride of place amongst the dishes.
This is so good. So the flavor of this rendang is so complex. It's spicy, but not too spicy. Very flavorful and full of taste. And you can really taste the effort that is made by the ibu-ibu. So good.
Historically, beef was used in rendang. But today, in the villages of West Sumatra, the rendang that is part of everyday meals depends on what lies at your doorstep.
Jadi ini kita masak apa?
Kita siang ini masak rendang pakis pensi.
Pensi itu apa sih?
Pensi itu sebenarnya kerang air tawar, kecil banget gitu loh, seperti kelam gitu, dari khas Danau Maninjau.
Sementara pakis itu bahasa Inggrisnya fern ya?
Fern, tapi kita pakisnya khusus yang di sini di Maninjau kita pakai pakis yang lebih besar-besar. Nanti aku tunjukin bentuknya.
And these are the ferns that Poppy, who runs a rendang business in Lake Maninjau, is referring to. Known as fiddlehead ferns, they are commonly found growing on the banks of the lake.
Jadi yang ada aja di sekitar kita ini dikombinasikan menjadi sebuah hidangan rendang ya.
Iya Mas Arsi.
Living off the abundance of Mother Nature is very much the way of life here. And it's reflected in the creative varieties of rendang made by the women here, including Poppy's mom, whom I'm about to meet.
Halo Ibu.
Mama nih teman Poppy Arci.
Oh iya.
Mama aku.
Halo.
Silakan Arci duduk.
Ya. Ya
Kita
Bu.
sekalian makan nih masalahnya.
Sekalian ini,
Iya.
sekalian kita makan. Kebetulan kemarin Ibu lagi ada pesta, jadi kita buat rendang paku sama pesi.
Nah, yang di sebelahnya ini spesial nih, harus dicobain dulu biar tahu rasanya seperti apa. Ah, ini khasnya kita juga ini dari Dadang Maninjau.
Ini kayak rendang daging ya. Hampir mirip ini gulai cincang kambing. Iya. Tapi bukan kambing.
Bukan kambing.
Apa sih sebenarnya ini?
Nah, ini sebenarnya nangka. Nah, jadi di Sumatera Barat tuh kan kita ada namanya rendang nangka nih. Ya, rendang nangka jadi nangka yang direndang gitu. Filosofinya sih sebenarnya untuk penghematan juga. Karena kan nggak semuanya orang masak daging. Di Danau Maninjau ini tuh mereka kalau buat rendang nangka, kita bilangnya nggak rendang nangka, kita bilangnya cubadak kicuah. Kicuah tuh misalnya ya nangka yang membohong.
Membohongi,
gitu.
jadi
Nah, cubadak itu kan bahasa Minangnya untuk nangka. Kicuah tuh menipu istilahnya.
Bohong.
Membohong, gitu loh. Nah, rendang itu nggak harus daging kan?
Ya.
Di daerah nggak mungkin hanya menunggu kapan potong kerbau atau potong sapi. Sekitar ini nangka mudah didapat. Nangka akhirnya dimodifikasi untuk menjadi rendang.
My meal with Poppy's family has made me realize how creative Minang home chefs can be in making use of local ingredients to make rendang. But as I navigate Kelok 44, a local road famous for its sharp turns, there is a twist in the tale of rendang I hadn't seen coming. One of the key ingredients that gives rendang its spicy kick may well be a lot more foreign than I thought. I am on the road from the highlands of Mount Marapi in West Sumatra, on a quest for the story of rendang. And next up, I am meeting a local historian.
Halo Prof.
Halo Arci.
Halo.
Halo.
Akhirnya ketemu juga.
Jumpa juga kita.
Iya, jumpa juga kita ya.
I am about to find out that the spicy kick I associate with rendang, surprisingly, has rather cosmopolitan roots. Roots that reflect the region's role as a critical node in the global maritime trade of the past.
Prof, ini tempat keren banget. Tempat apa nih sebenarnya, Prof?
Ini namanya Pelabuhan Muaro Padang.
Oke. Kaitannya tempat ini dengan sejarah rendang tuh seperti apa, Bro?
Salah satu bahan rendang itu kan ada cabai. Dan cabai menurut sejarahnya itu kan terutama cabai yang kita kenal dewasa ini itu kan datang dan dibawa dari luar. Berdasarkan sumber sejarah, cabai merah yang kita kenal sekarang itu kan datang dari Amerika Selatan ya. Dan dibawa ke Nusantara ini umumnya ya, oleh dua penguasa dunia pada masa dulu ya, sekitar mungkin abad ke-16 ya, oleh Spanyol masuk dari Samudra Pasifik dan dari barat oleh Portugis. Tidak langsung ke pantai barat Sumatera, tapi mungkin ke Aceh, ke Malaka. Pelaut atau pedagang-pedagang dari pantai barat Sumatera itu membawanya ke sini. Salah satu di antara titik masuknya itu adalah ke tempat kita duduk sekarang. Iya, Spanyol dan Portugis itu kan membawa hampir semua yang mereka dapat di negeri jajahan mereka tadi. Karena ini produk baru, pedagang-pedagang Nusantara pun juga dibawa pula, diperdagangkan pula ke mana mereka berdagang. Nanti cabai ini dibawa ke daerah pedalaman. Nah, akhirnya tumbuh, akhirnya dimanfaatkan untuk bikin rendang.
Dan rendang.
Ini memang nampaknya kecenderungan orang di dunia Melayu ini ya akan sangat responsif dan sangat menerima kalau ada produk baru yang diperkenalkan, apalagi oleh orang asing.
In hindsight, it really shouldn't come as a surprise to me that Minangkabaus of the past would take so readily to a new foreign ingredient. After all, the tradition of merantau is ingrained in their culture, a tradition that urges young people to leave their villages to seek their fortunes. In fact, I have learned that it's one of the driving forces behind rendang's popularity throughout the region, because the way rendang is originally cooked makes the meat dry enough to last for their merantau journeys.
By the time boys are becoming teenagers, they will often go and live outside the mother's household in a surau, basically an Islamic prayer hall. And in the surau, they will then study. They then will often go on a migration somewhere. And that might mean down into the Straits of Malacca, where you could find opportunity.
Which is why I have made my way to Negeri Sembilan. The Malaysian state has the world's biggest Minang diaspora, and their presence here dates back at least 2.5 centuries.
So Pak Tua, where are we right now? Because all I see is just greens.
Right. So this is Sungai Paya Lebar, one of the tributaries flowing into Sungai Rembau. So about 20 minutes from now, we're going to reach Sungai Rembau, which is the waterway for Raja Malewa and his Minangkabau entourage, who first arrived in 1773. Negeri Sembilan is really the hinterland of the Malacca Sultanate. Minangkabau male, they have been wandering, mainly for trade. So when Malacca was established, they remained doing that, and they marry into local women.
The Malacca Sultanate was founded around the year 1400 by people fleeing from Temasek or Singapore. It became the premier trade center on the Straits of Malacca, and a lot of important developments occurred during that period. Connections with China through the Ming maritime voyages, increased interaction with India and China, and it became a very, very important trade state.
So Pak Tua, you mentioned before that the Minangkabau people went through this river to get to Negeri Sembilan on their merantau journey. And from what I know, they bring this with them, rendang. So I've talked to the locals and they've prepared for us this delicious rendang from Paya Lebar, which is the rendang udang galah, or king prawn meat.
This has been freshwater king prawns area. They would have, experimented with it and came up with this very delicious preparation.
So it's a creative way of assimilating what they already have.
Using foreign recipe at the time to suit the local produce.
Right. And local taste as well.
Yeah, taste as well.
Let's have a bite. I can't believe I'm eating rendang in the middle of this river. I'm becoming like a true Minang person back in the days. Oh my God, look at this. These large ones are very good.
Boleh nggak? Cantik.
So where are we right now, Pak?
We're somewhere in Rembau. I would say this waterway is full of history. I reckon some might have gone upriver and, found a place to settle, right? So when they arrived in Rembau, the Negeri Sembilan people were kind enough to let them set up Luak Tanah Mengandung, which is now Seri Menanti.
So you were saying that the people here gave some of their land to the Minang people. So who are those people?
So they were the earlier settlers, the Malays and the Aboriginals.
It's raining now. I don't know how the Minangkabau people did it back in the days. With no motorboat and maybe sometimes without a roof on top of their head. Must have been really, really tough for them.
I've lost all sense of time. It feels like I've been on this boat forever.
One of the good things that the Negeri Sembilan natives have adopted and assimilated from the Minangs is, of course, rendang.
Hello, Auntie.
Archie, here
Hi.
you are. I've been waiting for you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Negeri Sembilan.
Thank you.
And
Auntie Aini is keeping that culinary heritage alive. She's been serving her fiery brand of rendang at her cafe for nearly 20 years.
Archie, this is where I operate from.
She counts Gordon Ramsay as one of her customers, and she is a member of the Bidwanda clan.
So the Bidwanda people are the original people
of here.
of Negeri Sembilan. And
Yes.
then Minang people came from West Sumatra.
Yes. That history is long. These Indonesian, when they assimilate themselves, they marry the local girls.
Right, and then they intermarry.
And
then
his
he
children
becomes-
will be Bidwanda.
Right.
And then after that, all the culture, we follow suit. But according to our
Right, so
our way. Our culture, our food almost the same, but it's not the same. So our rendang that makes a difference from other people's rendang is the chili padi.
So, Auntie, why do you use chili padi instead of other chilies in the rendang?
It goes really well with all our cooking. All our houses are surrounded by chili padi. Because you have the land, you have the space. Plant it.
Right.
That's what my grandma says. You
Right.
don't plant chili padi, man, that's a bad thing.
So, this must be the beef that we're gonna cook.
It's smoked duck.
So, we're gonna make rendang out of this?
Yes.
It's my first time making a rendang out of smoked meat.
Alright.
So, that's just chili padi?
Yeah. 100% coconut cream.
Wow, it's sweet.
Time to put the duck inside.
So let's have a go.
I'm excited.
So the smell is already very different because it's smoke.
Well, how's it?
It's very smoky. It's sweet, but without the added sugar.
Yeah.
And so it's very different than what I've been having, which is Minang rendang. So I'm curious, why do you smoke the duck first?
Long time ago, we have no refrigeration. So the only way to preserve food is to smoke them, dry them.
So this method of smoking, is it truly a Bidwanda thing to do?
No, it's a Negeri Sembilan thing to do. This state, they're always odd out one. 14 state, and they're the one who always smoke the food. The reason why we salai duck is duck smell is stronger than
Right.
chicken. So the best way to get rid of the smell is to smoke it. Give it a little bit more depth. Is this the first time you tried smoked rendang?
Yes, first time. Because for me, rendang is, first of all, it's almost always beef.
Yeah.
And then smoked duck rendang, something else. And then on top of it, it's made with Negeri Sembilan way. So it's like a new dish for me.
From Negeri Sembilan, rendang spread to the other states, gradually becoming a popular dish not just among Malays, but also another hybrid ethnic group. This is the Malacca River. It was once the beating heart of the port city that drew traders from all over the ancient world. Malacca was under Dutch control for more than 180 years. And before that, it was the Portuguese who colonized Malacca in 1511.
The Straits of Malacca is essentially a river that connects the Indian Ocean with the South China Sea. And if you control Malacca, you control a lot of intra-Asian trade, but also trade back to Europe. Now, these spices were the equivalent of what oil would be today for the modern economy, or even you could say microchips for modern computers. If you control the production and distribution of these products, you have a tremendous amount of power.
My quest for the story of Rendang here cannot be complete without paying a visit to one other hybrid ethnic group. It traces its origins to this very port in the 15th century, before the arrival of the Portuguese.
We are the Chinese acculturated community, and
Right.
therefore known as Babas and Nyonyas. Our forefathers were actually Chinese immigrants. Some believe that we were here since the Malacca Sultanate era.
Malacca in its founding days had to look for worthy allies, and one of these allies came in the form of the Chinese, who were also at that point in time sending the great naval expeditions out into Southeast Asia as well as in the Indian Ocean under what was called the Cheng-Ho maritime expeditions. When the Ming fleet came into Malacca, there was an attempt to actually set up a long-term presence in that city, and then to be able to operate from there.
So our forefathers came here, bringing along with them their Chinese belief and religions and practices. But because they have been living here for many generations and mixing around with the local population, they began to adopt and adapt. We speak the local language, we dress like them, we eat like them.
As the Minangkabau traders from Negeri Sembilan began trading in Malacca, they brought along their much-loved rendang. As time passed, the residents of Malacca began incorporating it into their diet too.
This smells amazing. I can't wait to try it.
I would say rendang would be a typical festive dish in our home actually. We have a meal called tok panjang, or a long table full of dishes. That would be basically for happy occasions like birthdays, weddings. So we normally serve red-colored sort of dish. And rendang, the most important ingredient is the chili, so that's why it's tinged red. So it would be a suitable dish to be served during happy occasions.
So, are there any reasons why chickens are used instead of beef in Peranakan cuisine?
Well, the Peranakan people, especially the traditional Peranakans, Buddhism seems to play a very major role in their lives. Yes, for religious reasons, we do not take beef at home, and therefore we use a lot of chicken, occasionally pork.
You can really taste the Chinese influence in this dish, especially with the bunga lawang, the star anise, that is very present in this dish. And also the chili oil, or like the dried chili, mixed with the coconut oil from the coconut milk. It's like a chili oil that you usually get in Chinese restaurants.
The unique Chinese-Malay mix of the Peranakans seems really familiar to what I've learned of the Minangkabau. The banquet style of serving Minang food is like the tok panjang. Then there's rendang, served on special occasions just like the Minangs. It's also cooked in a similar way, but with a different meat. In my rendang quest so far, I have seen the dish adapt to local produce, adopt foreign ingredients, and evolve with new cultures through the ages. So, what could possibly be next in the evolution of rendang? The very modern Singapore. It's the last stop of my rendang adventure. A stop first made by Minangkabau folks close to 2 centuries ago.
Minangkabaus arrived in Singapore in the 19th and 20th century when Singapore was under British colonial rule as part of the Merantau system. They would come here seeking opportunities. They would work in businesses, they would go to school, sometimes they married here and integrated into Singaporean society. There have also been important figures in Singaporean history who are Minangkabau, such as Zubir Said, who wrote the national anthem of Singapore, also the first president of Singapore, was of Minangkabau origin, and so they have a lot of influence outside of Minangkabau.
I've discovered that rendang, brought from West Sumatra, was actually adopted and adapted by other cultures to suit their unique needs. I want to find out if the age-old process and recipes has a place among next-generation chefs like me. This is one of the newest restaurants to join the fine dining scene in Singapore. I would imagine tradition isn't on the menu.
Hello, chef. Oh, hello, Archie.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. So we're doing contemporary Southeast Asian cuisine, and we're focusing on preserving ancient techniques. As you can see, we have pesel mortar, batu lesung,
Right.
and also fermentations. We extract the umami from the proteins, and we use that to season our dishes.
Right, so that's the ancient part. So what about the contemporary?
We rely on precise cookery. What we have here is
Sous vide.
the sous vide. So the meat are cooked on the dot, and it speeds up our cooking process as well. And it helps with the mouthfeel and texture as you dine. So I learned this recipe from observing my late grandmother when she does a rendang. So rendang is very important to us as a family. It's a symbol of gathering, especially for Hari Raya. And it's a communal effort, so everybody plays their part. So it's a bonding period as well. Oh, beautiful. There you go. So we're gonna pound all these beautiful aromatics.
Can I do the pounding?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, pull it up.
As I pounded away at the ingredients, I realized that we were missing something in the process.
I'm not seeing any spices that is going to be grinded here. So what's the deal?
I want to showcase how the Malay kampung foragers using the ingredients surrounding the compound of their house. As you can see, we have turmeric, lemongrass, galangal. So these are very accessible. This is Wagyu.
Right.
It's been brined overnight with rendang spices. It's been smoked yesterday in the Josper, and we had already cooked using the sous vide. All right, I'm gonna give you a slice of this beautiful meat.
Go. Wow. This is Wagyu, tri-tip, brine, smoked, and sous vide. Definitely not common in the kampung.
True. Get our hand dirty after this.
But amidst the process of reinvention were some familiar sights.
Right, the aromatics that we pounded.
So right now this stage is what we would have called a gulai. As you can see, it's watery. We're going to add in cassava leaf. Alright, actually, we have reached the kaleo stage. And once we pass that stage, it becomes rendang. See the beautiful oil? Go, actually, give it a try.
Excited. So refreshing.
Refreshing.
That's the one word that I would not expect coming from a rendang. A refreshing rendang. It's very herbaceous. It's smoky, but very subtle. It's complex, very umami, also very citrusy. The lemongrass, the galangal, the kick of chili, flavor of the coconut. This really makes up Southeast Asia for me. It's like a celebration of Southeast Asia in one dish on a plate.
What I've learned through this amazing and delicious journey of the rendang universe is that each type of rendang is a reflection of a journey of discovery, kind of like what I've been on.